Hello, 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 hello. Dorothy here at Done by Dorothy, and we're here today working on our journal along our Christmas for 2021, and we are at the point to where we are constructing our cover. So, just to break it down, trying to be very, very simple today. I am actually using chipboard, medium weight. You can use cereal boxes if you want, or you can buy a pack of 25 of these. They come in 12 by 12 sheets, and it takes exactly one 12 by 12 sheet to make your cover and your spine if you play it right. What I usually do is take my 12 by 12 sheet and I cut 1 inch off of it, make it 11 by 12, and then I cut 9 inches off, and that also leaves 2 inches left. And then I cut them down to whatever I want my height to be. So, and my height is 9. So then I take the 12 by 9 piece that I have and I cut it into 6 inches wide. So I get 2 out of the 12. So that 12 gets divided into 2. So basically, when I have my 12 by 12 sheet, well, let me grab one to use for reference. Hold on just a second. Okay, I have my 12 by 12 sheet. Okay. I have my 12 by 12 sheet. And basically what I do is, put my 2 inches here. I cut the 1 inch off the edge. Then I cut a 2-inch strip. And off that 2-inch strip, I cut it down to 9 inches because if we have a regular piece of paper, and you have to figure like with your journal size, you have a regular piece of paper, it's 8.5 inches tall. I like having that 1/4 of an inch on the top and the bottom. So I go with 9 inches for my height. So when I cut my 2 inches off for my 2-inch spine, then 9 inches for my height. So that makes my spine. That leaves me with an actual piece that is 9 inches by 12 inches. I take it, I cut it in half, which is 6, because these are 11.5, or I'm sorry, 11 inches wide. A regular piece of paper is 11 inches wide. So if you fold it in half, you're going to get 5.5 or 5.5. That's going to leave me roughly with a 1/2 inch on the edge. And I like having a little bit more on the edge because that's where you put your tabs and everything, and it sort of protects it a little bit more. So I just take that 9-inch piece that I have and cut it in half and create my 2 covers. So one piece. So yeah, if you buy a pack that has like 25 in it, which you can find on Amazon, Walmart.com, all of those, that's what I usually buy. And when I get my 25 sheets, that's 25 covers. So it should last for a while. Unless you're just popping journals out like crazy, most people it's going to last for a while. Okay, so let's talk about our base fabric. I'm actually using a red because, it's Christmas, and really, really, really liked this color of red. With my kit, I think it's not a true red. It's more of a slightly off red. So I think it goes with the kit very well. So I cut 2 different pieces. I have for the inside and my outside, because I am going to go ahead and cover the inside as well. So the inside piece is 14.25 inches long by 8 3/4 inches tall. Again, 14.25 long, 8 3/4 tall, because we want it to be slightly inside our cover. So I'm going to set that to the side. Our base, or our outside fabric, this is going to be the outside of our cover. This is going to be the piece that we see on the outside of our journal, is going to be 16.25 by 11. So 11 inches tall, 16.25 inches long. Then what I'm going to do, the easiest way I've found, and again, this is just, I always fold my fabric in half. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, you don't have to be because a lot of this is going to be, the edge is going to be hidden inside. So if it's a little rough or a little maybe wonky, it's not quite totally straight, you can fix that. Then I just finger press in the center. And that just sort of gives me the center of my fabric, and I know about where to line my journal up. Because now I have that center line to use as a base. Okay, now I know it's 11 inches. I know my covers are 9 inches. So I know that I need to go up approximately 1 inch. So lucky for me, and let me double check this and measure. And excuse me if I sniffle. I have the most horrid, like, cold thing going on. Okay, yeah, this is 1 inch. So this is 1 inch. So I'm just gonna, and I just measure off a piece of paper and trim it at about 1 inch. You can use it as a guide. It keeps you from measuring. If you want to measure, you can measure up 1 inch. Okay, so then I know I want the top of my ruler to go right up with the edge of my piece of paper, because my ruler is just a hair larger than 1 inch. So I need just the teeny tiny bit of it left over. Okay. And you can eyeball this. It doesn't have to be exact. So I'm just going to eyeball my center here. Sort of get it into the center. And then I can always, if I flip this around to my edge side, I can always hold my 2 inches up, you know, put it right where it's at. And then that lets me sort of guide to know exactly where I need to go. So this is where I want to go. Then I'm going to lay this one over here. And again, I'm just going to try to measure it up where it's even along the bottom. I always use the bottom that's closest to me because that just makes it easier. Okay. Then the easiest thing I've found is if I have a ruler and hold it straight, I can just literally bump up against those bottoms, and that sort of straightens it out. Now, one thing that I do, and let me find it because I've moved stuff around on my desk here, so things may be a little pants. I don't know. I can use this. One of the things I've found that is most useful, hold on, let me trim this up here. For me, is because I like to know that they're exact in the middle. So I have that little, you can use the inch that you cut off is what I usually use. This is just a scrap piece I had laying here. I'm going to glue 2 pieces of my chipboard together. And you can glue that with a glue stick if you want. It doesn't really make a difference. That works. Okay, I'm just going to glue them together. And if you glue them together and you hold them up on your ruler, you'll see it there. It makes it about exactly 1/8 of an inch. And you don't even have to glue them if you can, you know, just hold them together. And then what I can do is I can take this, slide my chipboard together. I hit the top and the bottom, making sure you keep it even. And it does. It takes a little bit. The more you do it, the more you get used to it. So then I know that that's just about even. And I'll do this again when I get ready, after I've glued them, and I'm going to lay them down. Because then that lets me know that where my covers are going to fold, it's just about the same width. And that gives me a little bit of space when I fold them, so they don't smash into each other and create all kinds of havoc. So there you go. So now we're going to glue this. So give me a second. I gotta get my glue open here. And I'm just using a white PVA glue. Plain and simple. Nothing fancy. And you can buy PVA glue just about anywhere. Okay. So I'm going to start with my spine in the middle. Just because I think that's the easiest thing to start with. And I'm just going to cover my glue. And you don't even have to be really neat about it. Just get it covered. You want to make sure that you don't want it soaking, because the more you have on there, the more tendency your chipboard will have to warp and all of that. Okay, and I'm just going to lay it here again. Let me grab my ruler here and see it and line up the top to see how my center is working. It's about spot on. And yep, so that looks good. So I'm just gonna rub it down with my hand. And you want to use some kind of surface at the bottom that you can glue on. With using PVA glue, it's not too bad. If you're using Fabri-Tac, be careful because the heavier you go, the more it just sort of gets goopy, I guess is the word. Messy, I don't know what you want to. And don't be afraid to put, I always like to put a thick coat, not an overly huge coat, but enough that, you know, everything's covered. And try to make sure all your board's covered. And do it all before it dries. It's a, you know, you just sort of plan out what you're doing and be able, so when you get ready to glue, you can just go in it and glue, you know, without delaying and dilly-dallying. And if you notice some of it looks like it's starting to dry, you know, then just sort of wet it down some more. There you go. Right like that. And again, I'm going to flip this over. Now, before I take this and push it down any, I'm going to line that up. Right like that at the top. Hold the top. Put it in the bottom. Then I'm sort of just push that over the rest of the way. Right like that. And realize you can burnish it down once you get it on there. Okay, once I have those down, I'm going to take this to the side. I'm going to pull my ruler and make sure we have them sort of down to the bottom. Or you need to move it where you can. There we go. I'm going to get my bone folder and go ahead and turn over. And I'm going to go ahead and sort of burnish that down. I do have a spot on my fabric, but again, you know, you remember I'm going to put stuff on the cover, so that one little spot is not going to make a difference. And sometimes you'll get that where your glue comes through, but you can, there we go. So I'm actually turning this upside down to work because I work better on my right hand side versus my left. So I'm going to grab my glue here. And again, if you're using like a bottle of glue, you know, it might be a little bit easier. I find it's easier just grab an old brush that you can wash out, and it's easier to me, for me at least, just to be able to brush the glue on versus, you know, trying to squeeze the bottle and get it all out like that. And remember, you know, like if you use like Fabri-Tac, something like that, which you can use, and I will use some Fabri-Tac towards the end, right around the outside edge, just because it's a security thing with me. Okay, and I'm going to eyeball this to the best of my ability. Again. There. There. Okay, it's about my 1/8 of an inch. Let me grab my ruler before I start pushing down anything. Yep. And that's the hardest part of doing it. It really is. I know it shouldn't seem like it should be, but it is, that outside. And if you get a wrinkle, you know, try to Just push, work it out. Like that. There you go. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to take my scissors, and I'm just going to cut it in at an angle, but I'm going to stop about 1/8 of an inch away from my corner, and there's no rhyme or reason to this. I'm just trying to lessen the bulk there in my corners. I'm actually going to use metal corners on mine, so, you know, it doesn't really make a difference. I just don't want that bulk under there. And just go into about 1/8 of an inch or so is about where I go. Let me pull this up like this. There we go. Okay, so I did see, let's see where I was. I'm going to put a little bit more glue right here so I can see where it didn't want to stick. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to grab my glue, and I like starting with the long edges first. That's just the way I do it. You can do yours different if you would like. If you'd rather start with the ends, I just find it easier to grab. And I am actually going down in those. I know a lot of people won't. And then right around my corners, I'm going to get really good. Like that. I'm just going to take that fabric, start in the middle, hold mine down, and just secure it in. Then before I go, I'm going to just take this and drop this down in that crevice. That's just going to create a really good, where it's real flexible there. And I just pull it down. And if you need to pull it down tight against your chipboard. And then I'll just take my bone folder and sort of run along the edge. And that just sort of presses that in there. Okay. Now I'm going to flip it around the other way. And hopefully I'm not, going too fast. If I am, and you need a better video, I've got other videos. Just about every journal, not everyone, but a lot of the journals I make, I'll have where I build the covers in there. But this is pretty basic. I mean, this is pretty much how it is. Glue. And you'll see, like, when I do it and I run along the edge, I make sure I get that along the edge of that chipboard. That's where that's going to keep that and attach it really well. I thought that felt funny. I had something underneath there where I'd... There we go. And then your rabbit, pull. If you pull, then you can push it down from the outside in, and that lets you know you're going to get up around the edge really good. And again, if you've got wrinkles, you can work those out. That's just where sometimes you pull it crooked, or you get, that little area. Get glue on my finger. Okay. And I'm not too worried about, any of the glue coming through, because we're actually going to do some painting on it. So we'll have that like that. Okay, so I'm going to grab the glue, and I'm going to start in my corners here. Make sure I get all of that fabric in there. You need to get it really good. Let me grab my glue, drag along my edge. Again, this is going to dry, so we're not too worried about it. Take your bone folder in the corner, sort of fold it down on itself. That's going to hold your corner, and you may need to dabble a little glue in there just to sort of hold it down. That's fine. It makes it a little easier. And this may release as a 2-part thing because, I mean, I know I have to, not for the cover itself, but for the decoration and all that. And again, I'm doing book corners, so I'm not overly worried about this corners. I just want to make sure that, you know, you get them tacked down. And see, just brushing that glue on there makes it so easy. Okay. Let's go ahead and put a little glue along the edge there and make it easier. And then I'm going to take it and let me just use my finger here. Finger press it over right there. So that's over. And I'm going to do this side the same way. I'm just taking it and just folding it over just about 1/8 of an inch. You know, that 1/8 of an inch you have left over. And then I'm just going to pull it tight. There we go. I am going to put a little bit more glue right here along the edge just to hold that down so it's not, you know, sticking all crazy. There we go. So that pretty much does the outside of our cover. And we do have a 2-inch spine because we added so much bulk. I sort of wanted to space that a little bit farther. So we didn't have, because of this being Christmas and something I want to reuse, you know, for Christmas memories, maybe multiple years. I wanted to make sure, you know, had lots of room to stuff things in, you know, all those Christmas wrapping and Christmas cards and, you know, pictures and all of that wonderful stuff. I wanted to make sure we had enough room for that. And with it being bulk, so I didn't want it to alligator mouth too much. So let me put this here. I need to grab some more glue really fast. Hold on just a second, guys. Okay. Let me get my glue bowl already again. Okay, so now we're going to do the inside. The inside is so much simpler. I'm going to start with the rectangle right here, and I'm just going to cover it with glue. I like to start with one side and partially in the middle. I just think it makes it easier to work with half versus, you know, trying to work with it all and having this massive amount. And I'm just going to cover it with glue from basically top to bottom. Again, I don't worry about going along the edge because I'm going to cover it with, we're going to cover it with, yeah, hold on a minute. I'll think of it in a minute. We're going to be using, yeah, we're going to be using gesso on it. So I'm not overly concerned. And I'm going to leave my edge because we can come back to do the edge. Well, let's go ahead and do the edge and just, it'll be done and we can do it all that way. So I'm just going to cover, do a nice coat of glue. And again, I'm going to go up to the edge. Again, we're going to be painting over it. So that glue is not going to bother a whole lot. It will disappear within the gesso. Okay. So I have my piece and I'm literally just going to drag it to where I need it, just inside the cover. And we may have to do some trimming, and I don't worry about all of that because and I'm just gonna start at the edge. And not having it glued over here, you can sort of slide it right along, which makes it nice. And I just sort of try to get that. And we're putting edging. We're going to put some lace edging around it. So this down here at the bottom doesn't necessarily matter if it's even or not. If you're one of those people that are going to get like totally whacked out about it being even, then for all reasons, take your time and make sure it's, completely, a lot of it's going to be covered. So, if it's a little bit wonky, it will be okay. And again, same thing around the top edge. We can go around and trim it up. Right through there. And see, that just creates a very nice, that folding is really nice and smooth there. Okay, then I'm going to grab my scissors, and I'm about an inch off. So you may want to, when you're cutting this, do this at 13 1/4. Let me check it. I may have had my math slightly off. Let me see. 12. No, apparently I have cut 15 1/4. So I'm going to grab my pencil really fast. And I'm just going to flip this over, lay it pretty much as flat as I can get it, right like that. And I'm going to pencil that line in. And then what I'm going to do is cut just slightly to the left-hand side of that. That way I know it'll be within my cover. So I'm going to cut about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. And again, you can trim that off when you're actually, when measure more correctly. I measured, but apparently didn't pay attention. So, okay. So now I'm just going to pull out my glue, and I'm going to get to gluing on this so we can get this attached. And we will have the base of our cover done. And then I'm going to gesso, which will be the base of the outside of the cover, which will be the last step for this. Well, I'm going to ink too, and we're going to gesso. But one thing that's going to seem pretty crazy, probably, well, we'll probably gesso first, and then I'll ink after I let the gesso dry. So that'll be like the first thing we do in the next step. What was I saying? Let's see. Oh yeah, we're gonna gesso. I'm gonna gesso over top the wet paint, or over the wet glue. It's not going to matter because I did this slightly crooked here, so I'm gonna just try to trim this up a little bit even. It's not gonna be a big deal because if you've made and you follow my DIY, and I'll try to put a link to that. I have a DIY for homemade gesso at home if you don't have any. And glue is one of the things in it. Okay, so let me put my brush up. Hold on just a second. Let me put more glue back in my bottle here before it goobs up in the bottom. Sorry, guys. I just don't want to waste. Glue is too expensive these days. If you've bought any glue, then you know it is expensive. Too expensive to just let it harden up in the bottom of my thing. There we go. Put that in there. Put my lid on my bottle. Grab a water bottle and just dump it in my bowl because that's going to keep my glue from hardening up in my bowl for me. And grab a drink while I'm sitting here. Sorry, guys. My throat's been really crazy lately, so. Okay. So, next, I'm just going to grab a piece of paper and shake my gesso up. And I make homemade gesso. This is a little bit of a acrylic gesso that I just had left from another project. And it's old. I have no idea how old it is, but it's pretty old. But it's still good. And I'm just going to put some there. I'm using white. So then this, you can see there's like a lot of creams and stuff in here. And I want to play off of that. So I'm actually going to my gesso, I'm going to add a little bit of vintage white. Just to sort of make more of an off-white color, if that makes sense. And let me grab my napkin over here. I'm going to wipe just a heavy amount of glue off the top of my brush here. There we go. And then I'm going to mix this together. So it's going to create not quite a cream, but just a really sort of a dirty off-white color. I don't know what color to actually. There we go. There we go. And again, I'm going to start with the outside. And basically what I'm going to do, or what I want to do, is create sort of this faux reddish, creamish frame type, sort of where you would ink. And I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do. I don't want it perfect. I just want it sort of like a faux snow type design, if that would make sense, I guess. And not heavy. I'm just going to load my brush up with, and just more of a dusting. So I may have to go through and, lighten this up, but that's fine because we'll go through it. And then you can go through if you need to cut any of that bottom layer off. You can do that. Like I have a little piece here that for whatever reason looks like a little wonky cutting. There we go. And then dab it out so it's not so heavy. I'm going to come in on this side, just sort of, again, just sort of frame. Frame or cover in. And you can even go, across some of it if you want to add just a little bit of white to it. Create sort of a snowy effect. I know this is going to look probably crazy when I'm doing it, but I promise you guys it just takes that whole super white look away. Gives it sort of more of a vintagey feel. And yes, it's probably not really good for your brush, but this is my glue brush, which, I mean, I'm going to clean the paint out of, but so I'm not overly worried about it. And the cream it's probably not going to show up a lot because the red, it's going to come across more as a white. But if you use a white paint, you would really, really see the difference. Let me set that to the side. I'm going to grab my napkin I was using with my glue. Well, I do want to do something real fast though before I do want to grab some white and really do a nice coat right where my spine attaches to my cover. Like doing that really thick through there along my edges. Okay, then I can take my napkin and I'm going to sort of blend it in. And that's going to take it from a white to sort of a pinky mauve tone. But when I do this, because I'm going over here, a lot of that white will stay still in the crevice. And you may have to, you know, grab your bone folder and slide through there real fast. Do another coat on here because for whatever reason this side didn't get as deep down in there as that side did. Let that set for a little bit while we sort of blend this out over here. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and turn my, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Let me go ahead and go down the middle heavy. And being the inside, I'm not as overly worried. You know, we have a lot of stuff that we put on the inside. Okay. Now we'll just that looks pretty crazy. Probably you guys are like, what in the world? But I want that red to come through, but at the same time, I don't want it to be overpowering. And sometimes red, especially red, sometimes has that tendency to just overpower a situation. Really go along with it. And again, you know, we got lace and stuff we're going to put on here when we decorate. So, and I'm not worried about all the little shreds of thread and stuff because there we go. Then I'm going to take my little napkin again and I'm going to hold and I may have to grab another napkin. And this is just the scrap napkin. You know, the inside white parts of the napkin that we get. And I sort of tend to do it circular type motion, I guess, when I rub, just because I think it takes some of the straight lines out of it. Okay, so that is our cover. Now I'm going to go on the edges here. And these I'm going to do with and you will notice it'll seem like there'll be a little bit of warping. That's just because of the nature of the beast. It is cardboard. And you're covering it with glue, which does have, every bit of glue has some type of water in it, or most of it does. I mean, I'm sure there's some that may have other stuff in it, but okay. And then just reinforcing that dark edge along there. Okay. And then tomorrow, in tomorrow's video, we will have, we will be putting our signatures in and then decorating our covers. So that'll all be in the same video because we only have 2 signatures to put in, so it won't be as time consuming. But so like, oh, there's a big old glob. Must have just done that one. Okay, so like for example, this is going to be my front, but you can see how that blends in a little bit better than just the red. So this has got to dry. So I will leave this lay this way for so long, and then I'll flip it over and let it dry. Or if you have a drying rack, you can throw it over a drying rack. You know, any kind of bar or anything like that that supports it. Technically, you can put my gesso bottle up, hang it over my gesso bottle. That'll let it dry a little bit more because it's getting, you know, it's drying from all over the place. So tomorrow we will be putting our signatures in. Then we'll decorate our covers on the inside. That's pretty much it. And then we will have our flip through. So tomorrow's video will probably be a little bit longer because there'll be a little bit more to it. We'll get it finished and then we'll do our flip through. So you guys have a great day and stay safe. Bye now.